So, I was on the front porch reading the Halloween tree and smoking, and I thought it would be fun to read a chapter or two to you guys and see how you like it. It was a small town by a small river and a small lake in a small northern part of a Midwest state. There wasn't so much wilderness around that you couldn't see the town, but on the other hand, there wasn't so much town that you couldn't see and feel and touch and smell the wilderness. The town was full of trees and dry grass and dead flowers, now that autumn was here, and full of fences to walk on and sidewalks to skate on, and a large ravine to tumble in and yell across. And the town was full of boys. And it was the afternoon of Halloween, and all the houses shut against the cold wind, and all the town full of cold sunlight. But suddenly, the day was gone. Night came out from under each tree and spread. Behind the doors of all the houses, there was a scurry of mouse feet, muted cries, flickerings of light. Behind the one door, Tom's skeleton, aged 13, stopped and listened. The winds outside nested in each tree, prowled the sidewalk, an invisible tread like unseen cats. Tom's skeleton shivered. Anyone could see that the wind was a special wind this night, and the darkness took on a special feel because it was All Hallows Eve. Everything seemed cut from black velvet or gold or orange velvet. Smoke panted up out of 1,000 chimneys like the plumes of funeral parades. But the kitchen windows drifted up, two pumpkin smells. Boards being cut, pies being baked. The cries behind the locked house doors grew more exasperated as shadows of boys flew by windows. Half-dressed boys, greased paint on their cheeks. Here a hunchback, there a medium-sized giant. Attics were still being rummaged, locks being broken, old steamer trunks disemboweled for costumes. Tom's skeleton put on his bones. He grinned at the spinal cord, the rib cage, the kneecap, stitched white on black cotton. Lucky, he thought. What a name you got. Tom's skeleton. Great for Halloween. Everyone calls you skeleton. So what do you wear? Bones. Wham. 8 front doors banged shut. 8 boys made a series of beautiful leaps over flower pots, rails, dead ferns, bushes, landing on their own dry, starched front lawns. Galloping, rushing, they seized a final sheet, adjusted a last mast, tugged at strange mushroom caps or wings, shouting at the way the wind took them along. Helped their running, glad of the wind, or cursing boy curses as a mask fell off or hung sideways, or stuffed up their nose with a muslin smell like a dog's hot breath, or just letting the sheer exhilaration of being alive and out on this night fill their lungs and shape their throats to a yell, a hoo. I'm not used to reading out loud. Sorry. Eight boys collided at one intersection. Here I am. Witch, ape-man, skeleton, said Tom, hilarious inside his bones. Gargoyle, beggar, Mr. Death himself. bang. They shook back from their concussions. All happy, fouled, and tangled under a long street corner light. The swaying electric lamp belled in the wind like a cathedral bell. The bricks of the street became planks of drunken ship, all tattled, flundered with dark and light. Behind each mask was a boy. "Who's that?" Tom Skeleton pointed. "Won't tell, secret," cried the witch, disguising his voice. I like that a boy is dressed up as a witch and not a warlock. Everyone laughed. "Who's that?" "Mummy," cried the boy inside the ancient yellowed wrappings, like an immense cigar stalking the night streets. "And whose?" "No time," said someone hidden behind yet another mystery of muslin and paint. "Or trick or treat." Yeah, shrieking, wailing, full of banshee mirth as they ran on everything except sidewalks, going up into the air, over bushes, and down, almost upon yipping dogs. But on the middle of running, laughing, barking, suddenly, as if a great hand of night and wind smelled something wrong, stopped them. They stopped. 6, 7, 8. That can't be. Count again. 4, 5, 6. There should be 9 in it, but someone's missing. They sniffed each other like fearful beasts. Pumpkin's not here. Pipkin. Pumpkin. How did they know? They were all hidden behind masks. And yet, they could feel his absence. Pipkin. He's never missed a Halloween in a zillion years. Boy, this is awful. Come on. In one vast swerve, one dog-like trot and ramble, they circled around and down the middle of the cobbled brick street, down like leaves before a storm. There's his place. They pulled to a halt. There was Pipkin's house, but not enough pumpkins in the windows, not enough corn stalks on the porch, not enough spooks peering out through the dark glass in the high upstairs tower room. Gosh, said someone, what if Pipkin's sick? It wouldn't be Halloween without Pipkin. Not Halloween, they moaned, and someone threw a crabapple at Pipkin's front door. It made a small thump like a rabbit kicking the wood. And they waited, sad for no reason, lost for no reason. They thought of Pipkin and a Halloween that might be a rotten pumpkin with a dead candle if Pipkin wasn't there. Come on, Pipkin, come out and save the night. This reminds me of a story. We can't avoid it, even when I'm reading a book. I used to climb trees all the time growing up. And my favorite tree to climb was a crabapple tree in my parents' front yard. It got hit by lightning and fell apart. I don't know, I think I was 16, but it had the best branches. And when you got up in it, you could eat the crab apples, which were really, really tart, but good. It would be awesome to taste a crab apple again because it would taste exactly like my childhood. Chapter 2. Why were they waiting, afraid for one small boy? Because Joe Pipkin was the greatest boy who ever lived, the grandest boy who ever fell out of a tree and laughed at the joke, the finest boy who ever raced around the track, winning and then seeing his friends a mile back somewhere, stumbled and fell, waited for them to catch up, and joined, breast and breast, breaking the winner's tape. The jolliest boy who ever haunted out all the haunted houses in town. Hunted out all the haunted houses in town, which were hard to find, and came back to report on them and take the kids to the ramble through the basements and scramble up the ivy outside bricks and shout down the chimneys and make water off the roofs. Hooting and chimpanzee dancing and ape bellowing. The day Joe Pipkin was born, all the Orange Crush and Nelhi soda bottles, this was written in the 70s, so maybe that was a thing in the 70s, Nehi soda bottles in the world fizzed over, and joyful bees swarmed countrysides to sting maiden ladies. On his birthdays, the lake pulled out from the shore in midsummer and ran back with a tidal wave over the boys. A big leap of bodies and a down crash of laughs. Dawn's laying in bed. You heard a bird peck at the window. Pipkin. You stuck your head out into the snow water clear summer morning air. There was dew on the lawn. Rabbit prints showed there just a moment ago. Not a dozen rabbits, but one rabbit had circled and crisscrossed in a glory of life and exhilaration, bounding hedges, clipping ferns, trampling clover. It resembled the switchyards down at the rail depot. A million tracks in the grass, but no Pipkin. And here he rose up like a wild sunflower in the garden, his great round face burned with fresh sun, his eyes flashed Morse code signals. Hurry up, it's almost over. What? Today? Now 6 a.m. Drive down, wait in it. Or this summer before you know, bang, it's gone, quick. And he snuck away in sunflowers, come up all onions. Pipkin, oh dear Pipkin, the finest and loveliest of boys. How he ran so fast, no one knew. His tennis shoes were ancient, and they were colored green in the forest, jogged through, brown from old harvest trudges through September a year back, tar-stained from sprints along the docks and beaches where the coal barges came in, yellow from the careless dogs, splinter-filled from climbing wood fences. His clothes were scarecrow clothes, worn by Pipkin's dogs all night, loaned to them for strolls through town, with chew marks along the cuffs and fall marks along the seat. His hair was a great hedgehog bristle of bright brown blonde daggers sticking in all directions. I'm gonna burn myself. His ears, pure peach fuzz. His hands, mitted with dust and the good smell of Airedales and peppermint and stolen peaches from the far county orchards. Pipkin, the assemblage of speeds, smells, textures, a cross-section of all the boys who ever ran, fell, got up, and ran again. No one in all the years had ever seen anything like him still. It was hard to remember in school in one seat for it was hard to remember in school in one seat for 1 hour. He was the last to the schoolhouse, and the first exploded out when the bell ended that day. Pipkin, sweet Pipkin, who yodeled and played the kazoo and hated girls more than all the other boys in the gang combined. Pipkin, whose arm around your shoulder, a secret whisper of great things this day, protected you from the world. Pipkin. God got up early just to see Pipkin come out of his house, like one of those people on a weather clock, and the weather was always fine where Pipkin was. Pipkin. They stood in front of his house, and at any moment now the door would wide open. I'm dyslexic. Pipkin would jump out and blast of fire and smoke, and Halloween would really begin. Come on, Joe. Oh, Pipkin, they whispered. Come on. The front door opened. Chapter 3. The front door opened. Pipkin stepped out. not flew, not banged, not exploded, stepped out and came down the walk to meet his friends, not running and not wearing a mask, no mask, but moving along like an old man almost. "Pipkin," they shouted, to scare away their uneasiness. "Hi, gang," said Pipkin. His face was pale. He tried to smile, but his eyes looked funny. He was holding his right side with one hand, as if he had a boil there, and they all looked at his hand. He took his hand away from his side. "Well," he said with faint enthusiasm, "we ready to go?" "Yeah, but you don't look ready," said Tom. "You sick?" "On Halloween," said Pipkin. "You kidding?" "Where's your costume? You go on ahead, I'll catch up." "No, Pipkin, we'll wait for you two. Go on," Pipkin said it slowly, his face deathly pale now. His hand was back at his side. "You got a stomachache?" asked Tom. "You told your folks?" No, I can't, babe." Tear burst from Pipkin's eyes. "It's nothing, I tell you. Look, go straight towards the ravine, head for the house, okay? The place of haunts, yeah? Meet you there." "You swear?" "Swear. Wait till you see my costume." The boys began to back off. On the other way, they touched his elbow, or knocked him down gently in the chest, or ran their knuckles along his chin in a fake fight. "Okay, Pipkin, as long as you're sure." "I'm sure." He took his hand away from his side. His face colored for a moment, as if the pain was gone. "On your marks, get set, go." When Joe Pipkin said go, they went. They ran. They ran backwards halfway down the block so they could see Pipkin standing there waving at them. "Hurry up, Pipkin. I'll catch you later," he shouted a long way off. The night swallowed him. They ran. When they looked back again, he was gone. They banged doors. They shouted trick or treat, and their brown paper bags began to fill with incredible sweets. They galloped with their teeth glued shut with pink gum. They ran with red waxed lips bedazzling their faces. But all the people who met at the doors looked like candy factory duplicates on their own mothers and fathers. It was like never leaving home. Too much kindness flashed from every window and every portal. What they wanted to hear were dragons belch in basements and banged castle doors. And so, still looking back for Pipkin, they reached the edge of town to the place where civilization fell away in darkness. The ravine. The ravine filled with varieties of night sounds, lurking of black ink steam and creek, lingerings of autumns that rolled over in fire and bronze and died 1,000 years ago. From this deep place sang mushroom and toadstool and cold stone fog and crawdad and spider. There was a long tunnel down there under the earth in which poisoned waters dripped, and the echoes never ceased calling, "Come, come, come. If you do, you'll stay forever. Drip forever, rustle, rain, rush, whisper, and never go. Never go, go, go." The boys lined up on the rim of darkness, looking down, and then Tom Skelton, cold in his bones, whistled his breath in his teeth like long wind blowing over bedroom screen at night. He pointed. "Oh hey, that's where Pipkin told us to go." He vanished. All looked. They saw his small shape race down the dirt path into 100 million tons of night, all crammed in the huge dark pit, that dank cellar, and deliciously frightening ravine. Yelling, they plunged after. Where they had been was empty. The town was left behind to suffer itself with sweetness. It's getting dark. Shouldn't be. Should I keep going? Ooh, it's a good picture. Yes, I have to keep going. Chapter 4. They ran down through the ravine at a swift rush, all laughing, jostling, all elbows and ankles, all steaming, snort, and rusabout, to stop in conclusion when Tom Skelton stopped and pointed up the path. "There," he whispered. "There's the only house in town worth visiting on Halloween." "There." "Yeah," said everyone. For it was true. The house was special and fine and tall and dark. There must have been 1,000 windows in its sides, all shimmering with cold stars. It looked as if it had been cut out of black marble instead of built out of timbers. Sorry about that. I didn't realize it got that dark. And inside, who could guess how many rooms, halls, breezeways, attics? Superior and inferior attics, some higher than others. Some were filled with dust and webs and ancient leaves, or gold buried above ground in the sky, but lost away so high no ladder in town could take you there. The house beckoned with its towers. Okay, that picture's 2 pages on. I don't know why I thought it was on the next page. The house beckoned with its towers, invited with its gum-shut doors. Pirate ships were a tonic. Ancient forts were a boon, but a house, a haunted house on All Hallow Eve's night. 8 small hearts beat up an absolute storm of glory. Approbation, yeah, that's what it says. Come on. But they were already crowding up the path, until they stood at last by a crumbling wall, looking up and still further up at the great tomb-yard top of the old house. For that's what it was. A high mountain peak of the mansion was littered with what looked like black bones or iron rods, and enough chimneys choked out smoke signals from 36 fires. Sooty hearths hidden far below in the dim bowels of this monster place. With so many chimneys, the roof seemed a vast cemetery, each chimney signifying the burial place of some old god of fire or enchantress of steam, smoke, and firefly spark. Even as they watched, a kind of bleak exhilaration of soot breathed up out of some 4 dozen flutes, darkening the sky still more, and putting out some few stars. "Boy," said Tom Skelton, "Pipkin sure knows what he's talking about." "Boy," said all, agreeing. They crept along a weed-infested path towards the crumpled front porch. Tom Skelton, alone, itched his bony foot up on the first porch step. The others gasped at his bravery. So now, finally in a mob, a compact mass of sweating boys moved up the front porch amid a fierce cries of the planks underfoot and shudderings of their bodies. Each wished to pull back, swivel about, run, but found himself trapped against the boy behind or in front of him, or to the side. So with a cephalopod thrust out here or there, one amoebic form and large precision of boys leaned and made a run and stopped at the front door of the house, which was tall as a coffin and twice as thin. They stood there for a long moment, various hands reaching out like legs of an immense spider, as if to twist that cold knob or reach up to the door knocker in the front door. Meanwhile, the wooden floorings of the porch sank and wallowed beneath their weight, threatening at every shift or proportion to give way and fling them onto some cockroach bitch beneath. The planks, each turned up to an A or F or C, sang out their uncanny music as heavy shoes escaped on them, scraped on them. And if there had been time, if there were noon, they might have danced out a cadaver's tune, or skeleton's ragaboon, who could resist an ancient porch which, like a gigantic xylophone, only wants to be jumped on to make music. But they were not thinking this. Harry Shank Smith, for that's who it was, hidden inside his black witch's costume, cried, "Look!" And they all looked at the knocker on the door. Tom's hand trembled out to touch it. A Marley knocker. What? You know Scrooge and Marley, A Christmas Carol, whispered Tom. And indeed the face that made up the knocker on the door was the face of a man with a dread toothache, his jaw bandaged, his hair askew, his teeth prolapsed, his eyes wide. Dead as a doornail Marley, friend to Scrooge, inhibitor of lands beyond the grave, doomed to wander this earth forever until, knock, said Henry Hank. Tom's skeleton took hold of Marley's old and grisly jaw, lifted it, and let it fall. All jumped at the concussion. The entire house shook, its bones ground together. Shades snapped, furled up to the windows lengthwise their ghostly eyes. Tom's skeleton cat-leaped the front porch rail, staring up. On the rooftop, weird weathercocks spun. Two-headed roosters whirled in the smooth wind. A gargoyle on the western rim of the house erupted twin snorts of rain-funneled dust, and down the long, snaking serpentine rain fell to the house. After the sneeze had died and the weathercock ceased spinning, vagrant wisps of autumn leaf and cobweb fell gusting out into the dark grass. Tom whirled to look at the faintly shuddering windows. Moonlight reflections tumbled in the grass like schools of disturbed silver minnows. When the front door gave a shake, a twist of its knob, a grimace of its gnarly knocker, and flung itself wide. The wind, made by the suddenly opened door, almost knocked the boys off the porch. They seized one another's elbows, yelling. When the darkness within the house exhaled, a wind sucked them through the gaping, inhaled, and sucked them through the gaping door. It pulled at the boys, dragging them across the porch, and they had to lean back so as not to be snatched into the deep, dark hall. They struggled, shouted, touched the porch rails, but the wind ceased. Darkness moved within darkness. Inside the house, a long way off, someone was walking towards the door. Whoever it was must have been dressed in all black, so they could see nothing but a pale white face drifting on the air. An evil smile came and hung in the doorway before them. Behind the smile, a tall man hid in shadow. They could see his eyes now, small pinpoints of green fire, and the charred pits of sockets looking at them. "Well," said Tom. Trick or treat?" "Trick?" said the smile in the dark. "Treat?" "Yes, sir." The wind played the flute in the chimney somewhere, in an old song about time in dark and far places. The tall man shut up his smile like a bright pocket knife. "No treats," he said. "Only trick." The door slammed. The house thundered with showers of dust. Dust puffed out the rainspout again, in puffs like an emergence of downy cats. Dust dripped from open windows. Dust snorted from porch boards under their feet. The boys stared at the locked, shut-fast front door. The Marley knocker was not scowling now, but smiling an evil smile. "What's he mean?" said Tom. "No treats, only trick?" Backing off around the side of the house, they were astonished at the sounds it made. a whole rigmarole of whispers, squeaks, creaks, wails, and murmurs, and the night wind was careful to let all the boys hear them all. With every step they took, the great house leaned after them with soft moans. They rounded the far side of the house and stopped, for there was the tree, and it was such a tree as they had never seen in all of their lives. It stood in the middle of the vast yard behind a terribly strange house, and this tree rose up some 100 feet in the air, taller than the high roofs and full, round, well breeched and covered all over with rich assortments of red and brown and yellow autumn leaves. But, whispered Tom, oh, look what's up in that tree, for the tree was hung with a variety of pumpkins of every shape and size and number of tints and hues of smoky yellow, bright orange. A pumpkin tree, someone said. No, said Tom. The wind blew along the high branches and tossed their bright burdens softly. A Halloween tree, said Tom, and he was right. That is the house, and that is the Halloween tree. Stop. I think that's enough. We're on chapter 5. If you want to hear more, I can just pick up on chapter 5 in another video. Let me know. But cool. Well, it's probably been 18, 19 years since I've read anything out loud. Oh, I should have said at the beginning. This is by Ray Bradbury. I used to read tons of his stuff in high school, but I love the Halloween tree. I actually didn't know it was a book at first because in the 90s I watched this cartoon called The Halloween Tree. I didn't know it was based on a book. I just loved it. And then whenever I found out it was a book, I got the book. So I hope you liked it through my awful reading. But I will see you next time. Bye.